Alright, welcome to the lunchtime video for the JNCIE-SP. We're really moving fast towards the date I want to take the exam. We're actually at this point beyond the additional date where I plan to take it, but of course with everything happening with COVID-19 so of course with current events, things have changed quite a bit. I initially planned to take this in September, so like a month ago. But I had planned to take it as part of a bonus program through my work. So I'd be traveling and getting a rental car kind of through the internal system there. They had a business trip system. I'd still be paying for the expenses because it wasn't a business trip. But I'd get my test fee reimbursed, and then I'd get a bonus if I passed it. Even better, I would get probably a cheaper hotel, probably a cheaper car, because it would be all arranged through my employer. So really big changes in my plans. It's really not bad news necessarily, because they actually redesigned the test so I can take it remotely. So there's no longer any need for those kinds of expenses. So I'm going to end up saving quite a bit of money, especially if I pass the first time. I mean, of course, I won't get the bonus, I won't get the test fee reimbursed, but that bonus program was a little bit not ideal anyways. So okay, so we're moving on to LFA, which is a high availability technique for MPLS. So let's pull up the lab. Okay, so we've still got the lab set up from the last video where we looked at LDP protection. We saw a bypass LSP, and we saw when I shut down a link, it had a different MPLS trace route. It had the same number of hops, which I was surprised to see, because I would think that there'd be an extra hop going here through there. But we did see the IP addressing change. So now it's time to learn about LFA. So let's start it the same way I start every other topic. Well, let's do one better than that. Let's start it by verifying that I uploaded the last video, because I would hate to have forgotten to do that. Okay. 57 subscribers. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ben, for subscribing. Alright, so new channel. Oh, sorry, not new channel, but okay, my channel. Yep, so we've got LDP Protection 1. Perfect. Yep, I only did one video. So I've got all my uploads up to date. So let's get the file created and get the title. Oh, it almost looks like I can make a template for this. That might be interesting to experiment around with, but this has been working for me. It's yeah. Okay, so we're good to go. I'll delete this because we're going to need to find a more relevant documentation. Okay, so it's going to be help apropos. Oops. Yep, pipe match. Help topic, pipe match LFA. Oops, so we've got nothing for LFA. I'm pretty sure it's case insensitive, but I'll just try it anyway. Okay, I don't see anything there either. So let's try MPLS. Okay, and maybe we can see something that might be LFA. Or maybe something for high availability. So I don't see anything for L. Let's try matching MPLS and then the letter L. Okay, so we've got a number of things, but I don't see anything that could be LFA. Let's try match MPLS, pipe match high. If we get anything for a high availability technique. Okay, avail for availability. No. Okay, so yeah, unfortunately I don't see anything that could be LFA. That's too bad. I mean, it's probably like link something, so let's try MPLS pipe match link. So, yeah, I don't see anything that could be LFA, unfortunately. Maybe it's not a concept for MPLS, maybe it's a concept for LDP or RSVP. Oops, and I somehow switched away from my terminal. Okay. So I still don't see anything for LFA. Let's just do a straight up match LFA. Nope, still nothing. Huh. Alright, well, it's time for a Google search. I won't be able to do this during the exam, but the idea is to prepare for the exam. Yeah, here we go. Oh, okay, yeah, that's what I thought it was. Loop-free alternate. I remember learning about this earlier. Yeah. So they'll probably have something for loop 3 free alternate. Maybe alternate. Free. Yeah, I don't see anything. But luckily there's lots of official Juniper documentation. Now this is for ISIS. We're going to be focusing on MPLS. So let's do Juniper, MPLS, LFA, loop-free alternate. Okay, so this is actually MPLS because it's a LDP tunnel. Okay, so this one I think looks good enough to me. We've got a remote LFA backup tunnel here. It's for ISIS. It doesn't look like it's specific to MPLS, but we do have MPLS enabled. We do have LDP, so I think this might just be a ISIS topic. So, yeah, that's okay. And then we've got the understanding. Well, let's read the understanding too. I think that'll be important. Oops, something's going on. There we go. So in an ISIS network, a loop-free alternate LFA is a directly connected neighbor that provides pre-computed backup paths to the destinations reachable through the protected link on the point of local repair, PLR, point of local repair. A remote LFA is not directly connected to the PLR and provides pre-computed backup paths using dynamically created LDP tunnels to the remote LFA node. The PLR uses this remote LFA backup path when the primary link fails. The primary goal of the remote LFA is to increase backup coverage for the ISIS networks and provide protection for layer 1 metro rings. LFAs do not provide full backup coverage for ISIS networks. This is a major setback for Metro Ethernet networks that are often shaped as ring topologies. To overcome this setback, resource reservation protocol, traffic engineering, RSVP-TE backup tunnels are commonly used to extend the backup coverage. However, a majority of network providers have already implemented LDP as the MPLS tunnel setup protocol and do not want to implement the RSVP-TE protocol merely for backup coverage. LDP automatically brings up transport tunnels to all potential destinations in an ISIS network and hence is the preferred protocol. The existing LDP implemented for the MPLS tunnel setup can be reused for protection of ISIS networks and subsequent LDP destinations, thereby eliminating the need for RSVP-TE backup tunnels for backup coverage. To calculate the remote LFA backup path, the ISIS protocol determines the remote LFA node in the following manner. Number one, it calculates the reverse shortest path first from the adjacent router across the protected link of a PLR. The reverse shortest path first uses the incoming link metric instead of the outgoing link metric to reach a neighboring node. The result is a set of links and nodes, which is the shortest path from each leaf node to the root node. Number two calculates the shortest path first, SPF, on the remaining adjacent routers to find the list of nodes that can be reached without traversing the link being protected. The result is another set of links and nodes on the shortest path from the root node to all leaf nodes. Number three determines the common nodes from the above results. These nodes are the remote LFAs. ISIS listens to the advertised labels for the LDP routes. For each advertised LDP route, ISIS checks whether it contains an LDP supplied next hop. If the corresponding ISIS route does have a backup next hop, then ISIS runs the backup policy and adds an additional tracking route with the corresponding LDP label switched path next hop as the backup next hop. If there are no backup next hops, LDP builds a dynamic LDP tunnel to the remote LFA, loop-free alternate, and LDP, label distribution protocol, establishes a targeted adjacency between the remote loop-free alternate node and the PLR node. I don't remember what PLR stands for. Point of local repair. This backup route has two LDP labels. The top label is the ISIS route, which denotes the backup path from the PLR. I think the R stood for route, point of something route. Point of local repair. Local repair. Okay, so the R stands for repair, not route. From the point of local repair to the remote loop-free alternate route. The bottom label is the label distribution protocol, multi-protocol label switched path that denotes the route for reaching the ultimate destination from the remote loop-free alternate. When a label distribution protocol session goes down and a remote tunnel is no longer available, intermediate system to intermediate system changes all the routes that have been using this backup label distribution protocol tunnel. Note: currently, Junos OS supports only IPv4 transit LSPs. If you need to reuse IPv4 transport LSPs for IPv6 IGP networks, add an IPv6 explicit null label to the label stack of the tracking route. The system automatically converts the IPv4 LSP to an IPv6 LSP. LDP might be vulnerable by an automatically targeted adjacency, and these threats can be mitigated using all or some of the following mechanisms. Remote LFAs that are several hops away use extended hello messages to indicate willingness to establish a targeted LDP session. A remote LFA can reduce the threat of spoofed extended hellos by filtering them and accepting only those originating at sources permitted by an access or filter list. There is a need to authenticate with TCP MD5 all auto-targeted LDP sessions in the given IGP LDP domain using apply groups or LDP global level authentication. As an added security measure, the repair or remote tunnel endpoint routers should be assigned from a set of addresses that are not reachable from outside of the routing domain. Okay, so looks good to me. Let's move on to the actual lab. So this example includes 6 routers in a ring topology. Configure the ISIS protocol on the directly connected interfaces. Router 1 is the PLR, which stands for point of local repair. This example verifies that Junos OS updates the routing table of device R1 with LDP next hop routes as the backup route. Okay, so the point of local repair is R1. Alright, so let's get started. Yep, we've got all our NET addresses, everything is good to go. I think we'll just be able to follow along. I think we've got an extra router though. Nope, we've got 6, but they do 1 through 6. So let's rename this one to R6. Alright, and then let's take down all the links. Don't need the labels anymore. and rearrange them, and then blank out all the configs. Okay, so we've got 0 to 1 here, and then we've got, it looks like 5 to 1, so it looks like their port conventions are going to be unusable. I'll just come up with my own. And I'll set up descriptions to make it easier on myself. Actually, now that I've learned, because before I used to use descriptions because I didn't realize that you could just hit this button and see the labels. Okay, I think I accidentally plugged it into 4, so okay, that's correct. And I can verify that by looking at the labels. Perfect. Okay, so let's go and blank out these configs. Alright, so next step is going to be to, so it looks like they do use descriptions, thankfully, so I'll add those as part of my blanked config, just to make it easier on me. And it looks like they do the error that they did before where they use unit numbers other than 0, but they don't show the configuration they used for VLAN tagging. And the thing is, even if they did show that configuration for VLAN tagging, you can see, yeah, here they're using, so this is 2 to 1, this is 1 to 2, and they're not using the same VLAN, so it's not going to work even if they were using VLAN tagging. But without using VLAN tagging, it certainly wouldn't work. Okay, so but this one is going to be the connection to R2. 1, R2, perfect. Okay, and then the next one. Okay, so now the candidate config, oops, shows just that I erased everything. So let's commit that because I think everything is good. And check out the running config, the active config. Okay, so yep, everything looks good to go. Good to go. Let's just go through and blank everything out before before anything else. Okay, so on to router 2. Okay, so that looks good to go. Next step is going to be those descriptions. So PE2 to PE1. Yep, so that's going to be port 0. Okay, so we'll take a look at the active configuration. Yep, everything looks good. Time for router 3. Alright, so router 3 back up to router 2. That's going to be port 0. But before I do that, I'm going to print out everything and blank it out. Perfect. Okay, so I think that's everything. Let's take a look at the active config. Okay, so 4, 5, and 6 are the last remaining routers, so I'm halfway there. Okay, and then the port on router 4 going to router 3 is going to be port 1. Alright, router 5. Okay, so then, yep, to router 4, that's going to be 1. Okay. Alright, and lots of good news coming up. There's just one left, so I might be finishing it up. Okay. Now this one will require a hostname change. Okay, and let's see which interfaces correspond to which. So this goes, oh, so it looks like they've got a mistake here. Oh, no, I'm looking at the wrong one. So I'm on router 6 now. So router 5, that's going to be gig Ethernet 1. Alright, so yeah, everything is done now. Might need to take a quick break, and then when I come back, we'll be adding the rest of the config on there. So, yep, everything looks good. Oops, I got a phone call. Oh, it's a spam call. Okay, so yep, I'll be back in a few minutes. Alright, I'm back. No time to waste. We've got a red circle now. So let's finish configuring these routers. Yeah, and unfortunately this really isn't the best way to study. Just going and kind of just blindly typing in what's on the page, but it's just, there's so much, like, in my mind it's like I gotta do something, and you know, I'm as long as I'm actively studying in some way, that's better than just not studying at all. So even though this I don't think is the best strategy, it's just, you know, it's better than doing absolutely nothing and not taking the test. So this is better. Oops. Oops, going to be edit interface. And this is going to be really helpful too, just getting used to like seeing messages like this and being fast on my feed. You know, that's going to help me a lot during test day. So it's not all, it's just wasted study time. And especially, I'm really happy that I went through a video where I forgot to include family MPLS, because that could just absolutely tank me. I mean, that's the way this test goes, is like, no matter how well prepared you are, if you get slipped up on one thing, you know, you can run out of time and not even have the opportunity to demonstrate that you have mastered the other content on the exam. It's really just about doing as much as you can, and if there's something you don't know, being able to move on from that, because you're going to get most of the points from the things you do know and the things you don't know. Basically, the name of the game is to have as few points deducted from things you don't know as possible. I think it's almost impossible to get a, or at least to be aiming for a perfect score. Really only got to pass it by 1 point, so every point counts. Okay, so and then it's going to do the link to R6, which is G001. Okay. Okay, so this is a new command for me. It's setting the shortest path first options. Really important because this is what is used for constrained shortest path first. Okay, so we're gonna delay it we're gonna make it so that it runs a shortest path first calculation less frequently than it would by default. I'm not sure what it does by default. Node link protection, we learned about that earlier. Okay, so a lot of new commands I'm not familiar with. Pretty pretty frightening, to be honest. I'm not sure if I need to be memorizing those commands or more familiar with them. It's always a bit frightening to see commands I'm not really that familiar with being used. And even here, this auto-targeted session, I'm really not. But these are particularly related to LFA. So if I were to set up a LFA, I would need to know these auto-targeted commands. Excellent. So hopefully we don't have any errors here. We will see. Usually when it takes this long, usually if there's an error, it'll trigger that error like pretty soon. I think it takes longer to commit when there's no errors than when there are errors. Okay, but moving on to the next one. Well, I might not get through everything. That'll be okay. Just do that in another video. Okay, so we're just going to be adding both interfaces in there, so I don't need to look up which is which, because we don't have any extra special commands afterwards. Okay, so here's the special LFA commands as well. Auto-targeted session. So if I do set auto-targeted session, you can see we've got configure auto-targeted session parameters for LFA only. So we've got a teardown delay, auto-targeted session teardown delay. We're going to have that be after 1 minute. Now, if I want to see this happen in my lab, it might be a good idea for me to change these delay timers to be much quicker. But that'll be in another video. I'm really running out of time for this one. Sessions, I won't need to change that. That's just the number of sessions. But the delay timers, I definitely want those to be as fast as possible so I'm not wasting time during these videos. Okay, so I don't think I'm going to get through all the routers. That'll be okay. Alright, but everything went good on router 2, so it's time for router 3. Be able to get at least halfway through. Now, one thing I am interested in doing is doing a help apropos match help topic match, and then it's going to be auto targeted session, because this should be help for LFA if they have it. Oops, it looks like they don't have it, so that's kind of surprising. Nothing. Ah, here we go. So we do have auto-targeted session here. Oops, but these are just show commands. They aren't help documentation. All right, well, let's get moving on to the next one. Yeah, one lesson I've learned in taking these exams too is be really careful about relying on tools that you won't have during the exam. Um, so if you're used to having really clean windows, if you're used to having your keyboard work, if you're used to having um, things you just take for granted as a user of a computer, you might fail the exam because you don't know what's going to come up. So you definitely want to be as prepared as you can for things not being the way you expect them to be. So what I'm doing now, it's pain, it's labored, it kind of sucks to type all these in, but it's for sure not going to be any worse than what's on the exam. If you get too used to using um, your terminal of choice, having multiple windows, having everything nice and neat, you're going to have a harder time passing the exam, which is kind of unfortunate because, you know, it's kind of speaks to the value of, or to the idea of how important is an exam really, because when you're on the job, you're not taking exams, you're actually doing networking, and in that case, yeah, you want basically any tool or advantage you can get, you want. So it's exams aren't necessarily the be-all end-all of network engineering training. Okay, so I don't think I'm going to be able to get both of these done, but I think just one will be enough. And to be honest, I'm kind of pushing it right now. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to stop it right now. In the next video, I'll configure router 5 and router 6 and go through the verification steps. So stay tuned for that, and thank you for watching.